Alright, I'll call this a context video because it's just for context. Alright, so I've asked the simple question, right, that is based on the lineage of our conversation. The first premise that suffering creates value is not necessary to the thought experiment. I'm sorry if I implied that that was necessary. I included it because it is fundamental to why I believe suffering sucks. It's through my conscious experience that I'm aware of it. So I'm putting it in there in the sense that that's what my observation is. I can't draw any other conclusion than that suffering sucks. I'm experiencing it. I know it sucks. I know the difference between the nail in the eye and the cupcake. So I'm just explaining the context of the conversation. The two conditions you agreed to were that suffering is bad, okay, the logic rolls the dice statement, and that we are going to establish sameness of intrinsic ability or function. That was the two premises you accepted. And then the thought experiment arises in the sense that I'm saying, well, you're saying, why should I care? Why should I do anything for the other guy? He's not me. And my explanation of why is because that's what same obligates you to do. That's where the ought comes from. Same ought to be treated same. That's the ought. I'm sorry, you misunderstood. Look, I'm trying to do it so we made it all nice and concise. And I'm sorry you misunderstood. But that's all I can say. I'm sorry you misunderstood. I'm sorry I didn't say it well enough for you to understand what was going on here. But of course, I know you don't agree with the first premise. And you could argue the first premise. And then I will make the video again stating I can't write a thesis on consciousness from anything other than experience. You have to have one to know one. That's all I can say to you. My entire beliefs on the subject of the value of consciousness is based on the fact that I have personally experienced it. I have no external experience of consciousness. I have no external knowledge of consciousness. I can only understand consciousness as being a consciousness. There are no books or Bibles on the subject of consciousness. There is just experiencing it and knowing it for its experience. Therefore, I've said to you, I have no help for you otherwise. I'm telling you my personal experience is decisive in that I know there's a huge value difference between nail in my eye and cupcake. I can't say it any simpler or clearer. If you don't get it, I'm saying we fundamentally can't understand each other because we live in fundamentally different universes. Holy fuck. The real point is you conceded to suffering is bad, and you conceded to fundamental general equality. That A and B are functionally the same device. That I don't have to keep arguing that I'm a special consciousness and the other is not a special consciousness. Oh, fuck. So let's play this just so, just see, just like I said, this is the petty bullshit. Duh, you couldn't figure this out on your own?
And I actually had learning difficulties diagnosis, actually, to say, yes, your processing speed is below...
Oops, wrong video. How the hell did I get the wrong video? Where did that come from? Dementia, here it is. Yeah, I don't know what the fuck happened there.
With me. Do you have a diagnosis of dementia or early onset Alzheimer's? Please quote me. Point to where I've ever agreed to your premise one.
Yeah, okay, just point to me where the thought experiment is dependent on premise one. It's not dependent on premise one. Is it? The suffering is that which ought not to exist. Isn't that the premise that's relevant to the thought experiment? Yes. And the word same, isn't that the thing relevant to the thought experiment? So, yeah, premise one doesn't have anything to do with the thought experiment that's asking the question of why is hypocrisy logical?
If I've pointed to premise one, it is to isolate it as the principal problem that I have. You dumb fuck.
Yeah, right. The principal problem and your counter argument to that theory is it's vague and it's arbitrary and it's blunt. It's blunt. And Yeah, well, I'm sorry. If that's your argument to a God theory, if that's all you got, if somebody says there's a God, and that's the best argument you got, that's vague and arbitrary and blunt. Well, I don't think you're going to convert them. Okay. And again, all you have to do is say, I don't understand how you could possibly connect suffering to value. As soon as you say that, I win, don't I? As soon as you say, how is there any connection between suffering and value? I'm just going to say, well, I'm conscious, and guess what? I know the difference between nail in the eye and cupcake, and it's a world of value difference, so there you go. You need it. What more can I say? It's about as obvious as the, sunrise. Yeah. As the fact that the sun's warm. Yeah, the sun's warm. Yeah. It's about that obvious. So anyway. So sorry to waste your time. Like I said, if the problem is that I said it wrong, I'm sorry. I was being a little rushed. And I'm sorry that I didn't make it clear that I was giving you a lineage of the conversation. And if I left that thing out, then it wouldn't be a lineage of the conversation. So I put it in. Sorry. But again, you didn't answer any of the questions. So what's the point, right? What's the point? I ask you direct questions, you give me nothing. You give me, oh, well, that's blunt. Well, fuck you. That's not a counter argument. That's absolutely useless crap. I mean, it just is. I can't make the question any more explicit or more obvious. And so what the fuck do you want me to do? I can't make it any better. You don't understand it? I'm sorry for you. Because that's just goddamn pitiful. A and B are the same. You're treating them differently. Why are you treating them differently? I'm not going to answer? Well, fuck you.